Hello, you guys. It's Jordyn Smith, the voice and the astrologer behind Nonconformist Conscience. I wanted to talk a little bit about Mercury entering the sign of Taurus, which is happening today at around 12:05 p.m. Central Standard Time. And this is just a couple of days before Mercury will square Pluto, and I will bring up that chart in just a second to show you guys. But when we're thinking about Mercury, we're thinking about Mercury in the context of how we contextualize and identify and label and classify reality, right? And it's interesting to think about because there are two rulers of Mercury. There's the Gemini side, which is, oh, there's a wall behind me and I'm classifying it. And then there's also the Virgo side of things, which is I'm taking in information and I'm internalizing it to learn, usually about oneself, to self-improve or to assimilate it in order to be able to intuit it later on, like the pieces of the puzzle falling together in order for it to go from deductive to inductive thinking. And deductive thinking is definitely Mercury, whereas inductive thinking is Jupiter, the right side of our brain. So it's really fascinating to think about how Mercury is now in the sign, or is about to be, in the sign of Taurus, and so is Uranus and Jupiter. And Uranus correlates with our long-term memory, our higher mind, our higher intelligence, our subconscious memories, and then Jupiter is correlating with our right brain, our intuition, whereas again, Mercury is our left brain. It's the deductive reasoning. It's the way that we classify things. Then it's the way that we internalize it and then assimilate the information in order for it to eventually become inductive and intuitive in nature. So that's really where we have like the square from Virgo to Sagittarius. But how we take in information is on a sensory basis. And this is very fascinating to think about. I was actually reading a past lecture that Jeffrey Wolfgreen did over Mercury. And in that lecture, he was talking about how senses ignite thought and thought ignites ideas. And with Uranus and Taurus, so much of what I've been talking about is how we could have these really deep insights, especially Uranus conjunct the sun on Monday. There's just so much that can be coming up for people on an intuitive level, considering Jupiter Sun conjunction, and then also recalling things that we have forgotten about or that we haven't thought about in a very long time with that Uranus Sun conjunction. But now with Mercury entering the sign of Taurus, Taurus is all about sensuality. It's about what we smell, taste, touch. And it's also about really bringing us back down to earth and grounding us. So Mercury had spent quite a bit of time in the sign of Aries because of its retrogradation. And that could be very fast moving, getting lots of information. And with Mercury now in the sign of Taurus, we're really called to ground into our senses and to see what comes up whenever we're experiencing something on a sensory level. What thought Mercury becomes ignited whenever we're grounding into our sensual nature, when we're grounding into the things that we smell or the things that we taste or the things that we touch. Just think about it. How often you can hear a song, or which, by the way, the ability to hear is Mercury, but the psychology of listening is more of a Venus dynamic. That's why I have talked about for so many months with Taurus. The psychology with Taurus, whenever it reflects listening, is the ability to inwardly listen. So think about how Mercury and Taurus is playing out. There's this need to really tap into our sensual nature, to ground into our bodies, our physicality, and to see what comes up around our thoughts and our ideas and our intuition, and really listening to ourselves from an internal level. Going back to kind of what I was about to say before I segued away, like I do, is think about how you can hear a song and it can take you back to a place, or you can smell a smell and it'll take you back to a time and a place. And you're able to recall what was going on in your life. This Mercury and Taurus is really reflecting this dynamic in tandem with Jupiter and Uranus. There are things, a wellspring of information within each one of us that we are meant to tap into at this time. And it's through our sensory nature and the grounding into our own bodies, grounding into our own inner listening. And I just thought it was really pertinent to talk about, because it's like all of these ideas and these intuitive shifts can be happening this week and later on. And, Jupiter is going to enter Gemini soon, and it's going to be ruled by Mercury in Taurus. And so we can see that there's this interplay that's going on between this dynamic of really needing to feel, which is a Taurus dynamic, to feel what comes up within our bodies, what we're sensing within ourselves, because it can evoke some memory that is needing to come up. And it can be a memory from long ago, and that's Uranus and Taurus. Venus is in Taurus, it's ruling this Mercury. So there's all of this heavy Taurus emphasis being held within the sky with these planets. And it's really speaking to us to tap into our own inner knowledge, which is a Taurus dynamic. There's so much knowledge that all of us carry within us. And it's interesting to think about the experience that I would say the majority of us have right now, in this day and age, this time, is that we are really meant, like we've been taught, okay, to get information from other places. Like think about technology, think about when you were younger, parents being like, no, you need to listen to what I'm saying, you don't do that, or people discounting even your intuition or your own thoughts, and are trying to say like, no, this is the way that you're supposed to think, feel, say. And Mercury and Taurus right now, held in the sky with all of these planets, is really speaking to us to getting back into understanding that we each have our own inner knowledge. There's a natural trine between Capricorn and Taurus. And when we have the ability to tap into our nature, into our own inner listening, our own intuition, Jupiter and Taurus, our own higher intelligence, Uranus and Taurus, and we learn to trust that by paying attention to it and acting on that, it helps us to emotionally mature. That's part of the trine to Taurus, and then it naturally to Capricorn, and then Taurus also naturally sextiles Cancer, and this creates a deeper sense of inner security on an emotional level. So if you've been struggling with emotional validation or emotional security, this is a really good time to practice paying attention to your own inner guidance. And here's the thing is you already have this lifetime of experience that if you feel a little afraid of something and it seems to be coming back up as a repeating thing, like some dynamic, you can utilize this natural trine between Taurus and Capricorn, where you can self-reflect on, well, did I listen to myself the last time? Oh, when I didn't, what happened? And had I listened to myself, would I have been right? And so this kind of goes back to that dynamic of understanding that wisdom comes from when we make incorrect judgment, and that incorrect judgment helps us be able to learn how to make correct judgment. And that gives us inner knowledge, inner resources. And so Mercury and Taurus right now is really saying, hey, 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 let's come back down to earth and let's really seek the answers from within. This is a time to be seeking the answers from within, especially with Venus ruling that South Node in Libra. This is where some of us may have in the past sought so many answers outside of ourselves that it's really hard for us to hear our inner voice. And all of this Taurus energy is really saying to us to tap in to our own body, to our own soul, to our own inner resources. There is a wellspring of knowledge. We just have to self-reflect and pay attention to what's going on inside of our head. So I wanted to talk about that. And I feel like this is a time where if we take the time to slow down, like Taurus, all of this Taurus energy is asking us, when Jupiter enters Gemini, we're gonna want to be on the go, but that's because there could be intuitive insight that is happening right now that we're needing to still pay attention to what is going on inside of us, so then we know how to make the correct choice, right? Because Mercury has a duality, and especially Gemini. And so this is a time to really be understanding what direction we're meant to take, and especially in regards about learning to ourselves and what feels authentic to each one of us. This is really represented by Jupiter being in Taurus right now. And then whenever Jupiter enters Gemini, we're going to have the choices that we need to make as a way to continue to expand upon all of this. But right now, this is a time to really just take a moment, take many moments, and pay attention to what's going on inside of you, and acknowledge that you have your own you know library essentially held within all of this knowledge, all of these resources that you are meant to use at your disposal in this reality as it's structured right now. And especially coming off of the eclipse season and that new moon in Taurus, this is really about taking the time to internalize all of this information. This is really seen because not only does Taurus naturally trine Capricorn, but it naturally trines Virgo. And so we're needing to take in all of this information that we just experienced during Mercury through Aries and the retrograde and the solar eclipse and the full moon in Scorpio and the new moon in Taurus. And now we're needing to really internalize it and assimilate it as a way to improve upon ourselves and to create more wisdom, more knowledge as an inner resource. But we can't do that if we're keeping ourselves busy, we're not paying attention to what's going on inside of us. So I wanted to speak about this. I love I love the earth signs. I find them magical. They can be, we can experience a bit of laziness sometimes in them, for their own reasons. Like Virgo, you can tend to have analysis paralysis because of wanting to be perfect. And so you learn the lessons of, in order to self-improve, you have to take that first step and keep putting one foot in front of the other and learning that the values and the effort. With Capricorn, there can be a lot of suppression, repression, feeling oppressed, and feeling very self-judgmental or judgmental of others. And so there's a need to really go inward and self-reflect in order to understand the wisdom that you're carrying within. And then Taurus, we can experience inertia, where we feel like there's so much going on around us outside that we feel stuck. We feel frozen. We don't really know which way to go. And so naturally, all of this Taurus energy is pulling in the Earth trine, okay? There may not be a lot of planets in this, but you've got a Saturn somewhere in your own chart. You've got a Capricorn in your own chart. See what this energy is trining in your own chart. And if you want to know, come see me. I would love to explain it to you. I love doing sessions where we dive into this kind of stuff, but all of those dynamics within the earth signs that have been known as like lazy or slow moving or this or that, it's because it's yin energy. It's really an internalized process. So often people even think of Capricorn as like a masculine energy, and it's not. Yes, it correlates with the patriarchy because it's the distortion of laws, but it also, whenever it is naturally expressed, it's how we are coming to understand our personal truths and what we value and what we need, and then putting it into structural reality through self-reflection. And I feel like it's a very beautiful archetype whenever it's understood. So I want to pull up this chart for the 17th, whenever Mercury squares Pluto. So thinking about everything that I said, let's pull that into this. So Pluto in Aquarius, I have talked about this. We are really wanting to liberate from certain dynamics because the way that Aquarius is explained, or Pluto in Aquarius, Pluto in the 11th house, and EA, one of the many ways that it's explained is it's like making a pie. You can change one ingredient, you can leave something out, you can add something, and it changes the whole flavor of the pie. And so there's this need with Pluto and Aquarius to eliminate things that have become over crystallized within us, so that way we can change kind of the flavor of life right now. And with Pluto retrograde in a first quarter square to, let me do this, in a first quarter square to Mercury on the 17th, so on Friday, we're looking at the need to create some type of action around what it is that's needing to be switched up, what's needing to be changed. And so this goes into me saying it's really important to be paying attention to what's going on a sensory level, what's going on with your self-talk. What have you been internalizing? What are you coming to understand about yourself since that whole Mercury retrograde cycle and Mercury and Aries that played out through the solar eclipse, the last full moon and new moon? And what are you coming to figure out that needs to be eliminated? What needs to be jettisoned? This can be especially because Jupiter, conjunct the sun in a new phase in this chart. Well, it can really be, what old beliefs have been coming into your mind that you're understanding aren't really necessarily true, and don't feel authentic anymore. What way can you tap into your inner knowledge to connect with what feels true and authentic for you, symbolized by this Mercury? What action can you take? Maybe that's going outside and spending some time in nature. putting your feet into the grass, into the soil. Maybe it's gardening. Maybe it's sitting outside and spontaneously writing while you're observing nature as a way to connect with yourself and your own natural personal truths. What ideas are coming up for you at this moment in time? All of this is meant to help us know what action it is that we are meant to take. And here's the thing with the first quarter square is we can feel that, I know that there's something here that I'm supposed to do, but I'm not exactly sure exactly what it is quite yet. And this is when we need to take a look at this grand Earth trine. The ruler of Mercury, Venus, is trining the moon, and that is trining Ceres. The moon is ruled by this Mercury, and Ceres is ruled by this Saturn. This Saturn is in opposition to this moon. This really speaks and reflects to those Earth archetypes that I was talking about. In Ceres, here, held in the sky, in the sign of Capricorn, is wanting us, again, as we objectify Pluto and Aquarius, these dynamics of what we've learned in the past, how we've internalized it, how it's affected our relationship to self, our sense of self. There's a need to go back and reparent a little bit. Our parenting, I'm convinced, is not done in this lifetime with what goes on in the world. So Ceres and Capricorn is really about what can you tap into as a way through your self-reflection to have an emotional maturation process. There's wisdom there, and there's wisdom around the past. What doesn't feel conducive to your own soul growth anymore? And with the moon trining Ceres as well, this is a way to improve upon our emotional dynamics. So that way we have a maturation process. And the opposition to Saturn from the moon, Saturn being Ceres ruler, is really about there is wisdom that is universal and timeless in nature that we're meant to keep from our past experiences, and it helps us to continue on our healing process. Healing is a form of self-improvement. And again, Venus is approaching Uranus. It is balsamic to Uranus at the time that Mercury is square to Pluto. We can see that there are old values and dynamics and ways in which we talk to ourselves, we think about ourselves, beliefs, everything that are needing to be eliminated. So that way we can kind of, going back to the pie analogy, change the flavor of this pie, change the flavor of how we're relating to ourselves right now. And so there could be things where, I'm going to stop this share, where we're understanding that, it's from the information that we gained and gleaned during Mercury and Aries, that now we're needing to put to use on an internal level so that way we can eliminate more. This elimination process isn't over. I know I've been talking about it, but Venus approaching Uranus, Venus ruling that Mercury, there are old ways of thinking that really aren't conducive to our evolutionary growth right now for each one of us. And the sky is reflecting the need, the necessity to liberate from these dynamics as a way to continue the strengthening of our relationship. Really, at the end of the day, this helps us to be more Taurian, self-reliant. When I'm thinking about all of the relational dynamics that I have been seeing come through my doors as I've been counseling people through astrology, for the past year, especially since the nodes shifted into Libra, Aries. Even right now, me and one of my girlfriends were talking about the relationships that we've observed, or people coming and talking to us. We're really still seeing a lot of the extremes play out in other people's relationships. Just think about what your friends have told you, or what you're seeing reflected, in the media, or this or that. Things are reaching extremes. And this Taurus energy is really about, in order to later on attract a partnership, friends, romantic, other business partnerships, any of that, there's a need to learn how to be absolutely self-reliant and inwardly secure. And self-reliance creates inner emotional security. That's part of Taurus sextile to Cancer and the natural zodiac. So this is a time period where we are wanting to eliminate any type of dependencies, any type of codependencies. And the way to do that is being reflected in the sky right now, to focus on oneself. That is re-emphasized with Venus and Taurus ruling that South node. The way to have a partnership based in equity, rooted in giving, sharing, inclusion, without the expectation of, if I do this for you, you'll do that for me. Giving freely, receiving freely. The beauty of Libra, when it's naturally expressed, is one has to become self-reliant first. Because at some point, relationships end when there's dependencies. Just look at it in your own life, the people around you, if you've experienced it, family dynamics, it's everywhere. And so we're really called to reconnect with ourselves, to understand our authenticity. Because if we're reconnecting with ourselves while also creating new patterns, remembering that Mars conjuncting this North Node, it's really helping us to, yes, self-improve, to gather more wisdom and insight, an emotional maturation process, to be inwardly secure. And Venus helps us to change our inner vibration and magnetism. And that is especially true right now with Uranus and Taurus ruled by this Venus. When we know more about our authentic nature, Jupiter and Taurus, and we're able to rely on ourselves through listening to ourselves, through tapping into our inner resources, our inner knowledge, Mercury and Taurus, we get to become our own authority. Ceres and Capricorn, and it creates security and not insecurity. Because if we are depending on other people to value us, to meet our needs, to compliment us, to pat us on the back, all of these things, well, it creates insecurity. I talked about this earlier this week, because at some point we can have a fear of what happens when that person goes away. I don't know how to do this for myself. So there's this need to really tap into this. That way, if you are someone who's seeking a healthy partnership down the road, you're going to attract that. The two of you are going to be self-reliant, both of you. So there's going to be no usury behavior, okay? You're not going to feel the need to entrap someone, or them to entrap you, or to mishandle, have hidden motivations, behind being with someone. Because it's not about, I need you. It's about, I'm here because I want to be here. And this is really reflected in the work that we do right now, that we have been doing. But with, Mercury moving into Taurus, it ups the ante. Now we're like, okay, what knowledge from the past do we need to eliminate, that we need to clear out? how can I tap more into my own inner resources instead of getting it from out here? Do I need to liberate from the voices of others that have told me things that have affected my sense of self-esteem? There's this need to just reconnect and ground into this. And Mercury and Taurus really speaks to, you have this inner knowledge held within you. And it is very much emphasized with Jupiter and Uranus also in these signs, and Venus and the sun. There's so much Taurus energy right now. So I just wanted to get on here and talk about this a little bit. I want you guys to know I have one spot left for my workshop. I really appreciate all of you who have signed up. I love it. And this weekend, I will be posting the Gemini birthday special. So if you're a Gemini, when I post this, and I'll do a short, I'll put it in the shorts video. So make sure you're subscribed if you wanna, know when that happens. Make sure that you're subscribed on my website, Nonconformist Conscience, spelled the same way as this channel. Because I will put it on there as well. That way Geminis can have their time to shine and to have the birthday special. If you are a Taurus, you can book an appointment, and it does not have to be for this week. It can be later on whenever you have the time, but you have until this weekend to book that. And is there anything else I feel like I need to say? No, other than like, I really enjoy doing these birthday specials. Like, I don't know why I haven't thought of this before. I get to connect with you guys. I also get to learn even more about these archetypes, manifesting through different souls. And archetypes are vast. Like, and the vastness is really seen when interacting one-on-one with one of my clients, because it'll totally fit the archetypal nature. But I learn just as much from you guys as I think that you learn from me. And I'm so appreciative of it. I love doing what I do. So this is your, what is it? Wednesday, your midweek update on Mercury entering the sign of Taurus, and Mercury and Taurus squaring Pluto and Aquarius. The other thing that I do want to mention, that my beautiful friend B, who's an astrologer, we had a conversation about, and she's very eclectic in nature. Oh my gosh, she has so much Aquarius. I love her so much. But it's a notable mention. During this transit, it's really important to slow down in your travels. Just making sure that you're paying attention and being aware. Because Pluto and Aquarius can be big things happening all of a sudden out of nowhere, and Mercury correlates to, driving, to cars, to transportation. And so just be aware of your surroundings. It's like my dad taught me, and this isn't to like make you guys afraid or anything by any means. I'm not afraid to drive, just to let you know. But my dad, he taught me growing up that the best thing you can be is a defensive driver. You should be paying more attention to what other people are doing than what you're doing. Because essentially our driving kind of becomes muscle memory. And so I have literally not had many car wrecks occurred because I'm a defensive driver. I see things before they happen. I'm paying attention to the people around me and how they're driving. And so Mercury square Pluto right now, you just want to be a defensive driver. You want to pay attention whenever you're traveling, especially because Mercury and Taurus, people can be experiencing inertia. They can freeze up. They can also thinking, by the way, during this transit can all of a sudden you can't remember what you were thinking. There's a natural sextile between Taurus and Pisces, and if there's a lot going around, like I said, Taurus experiences inertia, and it's kind of like, whoop, that, you know, I don't even know what I was thinking anymore. So just give yourself grace during this. And really, whenever that happens, it's like the soul is being like, hey, now you need to come back into you, come back in. So just remember, this is a time to ground into yourself and to really understand that we are meant to be slow right now. This is not a fast-paced time. This is a time to be a little bit slow, so we can assimilate all of the beautiful information and knowledge that we just took in, and to make it become a part of our being, a part of our relationship to self, Taurus. So I just wanted to say that, and I hopefully will see some Geminis coming up soon. And again, if you're a Taurus, book that before the birthday special runs out, and I will see you all soon.